Hello and welcome to the Kentucky Today podcast. I'm Lawrence Smith, the editor of Kentucky Today. Alongside today, managing editor Mark Maynard. Mark, it's just me and you today. We'll have to survive without Tessa and Chip if we can possibly do that.
I'm not sure how we can do that, but we'll try.
We'll try. We will try. I want to start with a story that is important for no other reason than its symbolism. The story Tessa wrote about the EMW Women's Surgical Center, the last remaining abortion clinic in Kentucky, being torn down in downtown Louisville. It ceased operations in 2022 after Roe v. Wade was overturned and Kentucky's ban on elective abortions went into effect. And now it has been torn down. As I said, Mark, for no other reason than the symbolism, it's a very important story.
Absolutely, and that's what I thought too. It spoke volumes, I think, to see that big crane, and there was hardly anything left of that. And praise the Lord that place is gone. It's a place of horror, really, when you really get right down to it. A lot of deaths happen in that place, and we've been we were happy when they closed, but that really just puts like the finishing touch on it, doesn't it? Just to flatten that place. And I guess it's going to be a hotel or
yeah, it's going to be a 27-story hotel, and of course, parking along with that. But you talk about it being a place of death, and Tessa's story said that it's estimated that since this place opened in 1981, more than 100,000 abortions were performed. That's 100,000 children killed at that facility. It's just mind-boggling to think about.
That is an unreal number. I remember editing that story and reading through it and thinking, my word, 100,000. I mean, how many is that even a year? You're talking, what's it been, 40 plus years. Just an amazing number if you divide it out and per year, how many abortions happen at that place.
And we're not sure if that's the final total because there were several years where reporting was not required. So that's just an estimate. Could have been much more than that.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see it gone. There's no question about that. And, I pray nothing ever is able to spring up to cause that kind of chaos and heartbreak and just really murder, when you really get right down to it. Again, we hope Roe versus Wade and all that stands and we don't have to deal with anything like this ever again in Kentucky or anywhere else.
Well, that's kind of the rest of the story, Mark, because EMW's closure does not mean there are no elective abortions being performed. In Kentucky, they're just now done in the privacy of one's own home by the abortion pill.
Yeah, the work's not done.
That's right. So there are more abortions now by pill than in any of these clinics that used to exist in Kentucky and elsewhere. The legislature, the General Assembly, this year took no action to do anything to try to protect Kentuckians from the abortion pill. So that's something that we'll continue to push for in the coming years in the legislature. They did a great job with the trigger bill that banned elective abortions in Kentucky, but now steps need to be taken both at the state and federal level to try to stop the flow of these chemical abortion pills into the state where babies can be killed in one's own home.
Yeah, we need more pro-life champions, to lobby some of these legislators and get more things on the books. Really, it's kind of disappointing. I think this year that nothing happened. That no laws were pursued. Nothing really happened toward that end. And we need that here in Kentucky and nationwide for that matter. That the pills are a problem everywhere. And just the access to them is the big problem. That it's anybody can get them. Basically, is what it amounts to. And so anybody can get an abortion. It's just not like it used to be as far as the abortion goes.
And unlike what's been advertised by the pro-abortion industry, these pills are not safe. Women are harmed by them. And of course, children are killed, but women are harmed.
Yeah, it's a terrible thing, and both ways are awful, of course, but to think of the damage that's being done, even to the woman who's taking those pills, and like you say, even having some problems of her own, health problems from taking it, not to mention the death of that baby in the womb.
Yeah, a lot yet to do. We certainly hope our legislature and our federal government continue to pursue actions to protect unborn life and protect the physical health of the mothers. Well, Mark, you wrote a very interesting story. I was fascinated by this, about Governor Andy Beshear raising questions about how the University of Kentucky is being run. It's a pretty unusual step.
Yeah, it is. You don't ever really hear him talk about that, criticizing decisions that management makes. And that's really what he was getting at in this. And one of them, concerned the contract, or not the contract, but the retirement gift, if you want to call it that, that Mitch Barnhart, the former athletic director, got. And that was a $950,000 a year job. And, we really still don't know exactly what it is. I mean, they have some fancy title with it, but nobody really knows what it is. And he gets, I forget how many tickets, 10 or 12 tickets to every UK event, and when you think about how much money that's worth by itself, it's a king's ransom that he got in retirement. I'd retire too if I get something like that. But here's one thing that nobody's really pointed out, Lawrence.
If you retire, Mark, you're not getting $1 million. Okay, so just let's put it on the table right now.
Good to know. Good to know. One thing that hasn't really been talked about or pointed out, this was put in the contract in his last contract, which may have been, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago or 4 years ago, that this was part of that. Yet nobody in the media said anything at that time, and that's really when probably people should have been squawking about it. I mean, to this point now, there really wasn't anything else UK could do but to honor that. If it's in the contract, they can't just say, "Oh, we decided we're not going to give it to you." It's already in the contract. Where was the media 3 years ago? I know I'm part of the media too, so I'm pointing at myself as well. But maybe everybody didn't look at that contract thoroughly or whatever. But UK really had no choice here. I mean, they had to honor that contract. So I don't know about that one. I mean, I don't agree that he's getting what he's getting. And, he made a lot of money as the AD, I'm sure plenty enough to live by. And he did a good job and all that, whatever. That's fine. But you shouldn't get a golden parachute quite like that, I don't think, Of course, the other one was the law, I guess a
UK law school
judge.
dean.
The federal judge that is the new dean, even though he was not the one that was really recommended. And I think Beshear's just wondering, how many are the big donors wanting him in there, or what all happened there. He's putting that question out there, and it should make for some interesting meetings in the next 2 days when the UK Board of Trustees meets. It will be very interesting. When you have the governor weighing in like that, you kind of have to answer to that a little bit, I think. And Beshear is inviting everybody to come and go and ask your questions and all that. And I think people will. He's probably started up enough. He knew from going on social media and getting that started that it was going to be a story. He didn't do it at his normal press conference or anything. He did it on social media only. But everybody, of course, picked up on it, including Kentucky Today. I saw it and I was like, oh, wow, this is, we got to write about this for sure. But interesting story for sure.
Well, let me give you some background on this appointment of the judge's name. It's a U.S. Federal District Judge Greg Van Titenoff. And he was appointed by President George W. Bush after being recommended by Senator Mitch McConnell. And he is a constitutional conservative in his judicial philosophy. That may be part of the reason why the rest of the law school did not want him, and part of the reason why the governor is raising questions about him because of the fact that he was recommended by Mitch McConnell and he's considered a constitutional conservative. I think all those things are kind of behind this as well. So there's, as is always the case, or most often the case, there's politics behind this controversy.
Always the two sides, isn't there? And certainly that's interesting. That he was a Mitch McConnell, someone he recommended, and
Yeah,
he's
he used to serve on Mitch
from
McConnell's staff at one time.
okay, and from all accounts, he's been a good federal judge. Actually, he's done a good job. So it'll be interesting. I don't know that there's anything anybody can do about it right now. I guess until the Board of Trustees approves it, I guess it's not, everything's not official. But I think those meetings will be worth paying attention
Well,
to.
there's part of the controversy is whether the Board of Trustees needs to approve this. That's not clear. In response, UK has basically said, thanks for your input, Governor, but we're going to do it anyway. So that was
Yes,
the essence of their response. But
Yeah, it was.
that's part of the question is whether it needs to involve trustees at all. So it's such an interesting to peel back the onion a bit and kind of see what's going on underneath some of these appointments. And the fact that Bashir raised this question now means it's a political issue.
That's right. That's right. Well, we'll have to stay tuned to that.
Let's jump now to the state of Texas. And the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, Federal District Court of Appeals, has ruled that the state of Texas can require the Ten Commandments to be posted in public school classrooms across the state. An interesting ruling, one that could have implications elsewhere, but Mark, what do you think about the Ten Commandments allowed to be posted in public school class? When I was a kid, and maybe you were a kid, that was common, but
That's
not
what I was getting
anymore.
ready to say. Yeah, I was getting ready to say just that. When I went to school in grammar and grade school, we had it on the wall. We had the Ten Commandments. We knew what they were and all that. And gradually, just like they took prayer out of school, they take that out of school, and they don't want anything to do with religion in school and whatnot. But we've seen other states. Louisiana was one, I think, and maybe Mississippi. Some of those southern states that wanted the Ten Commandments to be part of what's going on at school because of the historic value of that. And I think that's the thing people maybe be missing a little bit here. But really, I don't know how you could have too much problem with the Ten Commandments. Just quite frankly, I mean, just read them. There's you follow that, you're going to do all right for yourself. So I think this ruling could really open things up for other states, of course, to follow suit. And, if that means Kentucky, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. I know Attorney General Russell Coleman was certainly happy to see what had happened there in Texas. And through, a lot of the AGs nationwide were watching this very closely and seeing what was going to happen with that. And I think what they saw, they liked. So don't be surprised if we see that popping up in other states and other courtrooms in the future. In
fact, I asked the Attorney General's office about this, and it does not have a direct effect on Kentucky because Kentucky is in the Sixth Circuit. This is the Fifth Circuit. But if a case ever popped up in Kentucky, that ruling could have a significant impact. If it's appealed, of course, it may go all the way to the Supreme Court. But that ruling could have an impact in Kentucky if such a case were brought here. Now, we'll tell you this, there were, I think, 2 bills that were introduced in the General Assembly this year, but they both died in a House committee, meaning that the House leadership didn't want them to be brought to the floor. But perhaps this ruling can embolden some legislators next year to try it again.
Of course, we got our Ten Commandment thing back in the Capitol grounds,
right.
this year. So I was thinking last night, is that a step maybe toward getting it maybe in the schools? We'll see, or on other government buildings or whatever. But it was good. It was good to see that. I think that was a victory too in Kentucky to get that back.
Yeah. Let's turn to a couple of Baptist news stories that I want you to talk about that you wrote, Mark. A very interesting story about what goes on at a Baptist campus ministry meeting. A couple of pastors went and were surprised by what they found.
Yeah, a couple of pastors from Southern Heights Baptist Church in Lexington were invited to a BCM meeting by campus minister Daniel Johnson. Just he's like, hey, why don't you guys come and see what we do, see what we're about, see what you think? And they said, yeah, we'll come. And they both said well, the one said, I just talked to one, but Sebastian Koger, and he said, well, we kind of went in with some preconceived notions on what was going on, and we came in and there was loud music, and people were high fiving and kind of milling around, and but he said the more we got in there, the more we saw it wasn't shallow as far as spiritually at all, and the kids wanted to be there. They were genuinely wanted to be there, and they were praising the Lord with all they had, and they were like blown away. Really, is what he told me. He said we just were shocked at the spiritual depth that they had, and they had a panel conversation, and the participation that went with that was just great. They asked the tough questions, and it was a room full of kids. Our Baptist campus ministries, not just in Lexington, but the 7 other places we go, they're fantastic. I mean, they have some of the best kids you will ever be around. And right now, Daniel Johnson has 3 freshmen, and you don't see this out of freshmen very often, but he has 3 freshmen that are just evangelistic and on fire. And they go out and they see somebody 50 yards away and say, we're going after him. It's like, here we go. It's like Paul's out there, with something, I don't know. But it's really interesting to watch and to hear about that, and to hear, about how deep they are in their theology even, and these guys were just so impressed. And, Daniel says he invites people all the time, come and see for yourself, what's going on. And I think that's a good thing. Churches should do that. If you're a CP giving church, you are giving to the BCMs throughout the state. Come and see what your money's doing, and you'll be pleasantly surprised with what's happening. Daniel does do a great job, and I know last year I think they had their 90th anniversary. BCM's been around a long time, and he's got some cool things planned that I'm writing about. I'm going to write about these 3 freshmen for one thing, because I want to get their stories, and you'll see that in the coming days and weeks for sure. But a lot of good things happening at our BCMs, and I'm glad our pastors are seeing that, and I hope more take these guys up on their invitations to come to a meeting. And I've been to some too at Eastern with Jake Hancock, and he does great. I mean, Matthew Moffett, you can just go down the line. They are all fantastic guys, and leading well. And I'm really proud of our BCM and what they are doing for the college students. That's a tough age, to get, but man, they've got some of the best kids on campus, I guarantee you, and they're doing great things for the Lord, not just studying. They're doing great things for the Lord as well.
Well, university and college campuses are such a ripe mission field, and it's just amazing what they're doing there. And a number of churches already do partner with the BCMs across the state, but hopefully this will encourage more local churches to get involved, because, these men and women on these campuses come to Christ, and they're then sent to the local church. So the partnership with the local churches in these areas is critical.
Right. Yeah. You have them sprinkled all throughout the local churches in these communities. You have the kids from the BCM who either already graduated at UK or whatever, but going to churches and becoming their leaders. They're leaders immediately as they go in there. They've already experienced a lot. They've grown. They've grown in their faith, and you can't beat that. We need more of that in our churches too. We need young people in our churches, young adults like that. So they're doing just tremendous work, and real proud of them for sure.
Indeed. Second story you did, I want to talk about a pastor, bivocational pastor, who took advantage of some of the KBC's materials to train lay people to preach, and he found out that effort did much more than prepare these men to preach. They became leaders in the church.
Exactly. Yeah. It was a preaching preaching workshop books they use. Preaching and mentorship basically is what it amounts to. And, well, I've actually interviewed two different pastors in that and two different stories. And they're similar stories in that these pastors are being able to disciple these men, not just to maybe fill a pulpit. I mean, they can probably do that, but it's way beyond that. They're becoming students of the Bible. They're becoming discipled themselves by their pastors, and they're becoming the strong leaders and the deacons and the elders in the church. They're becoming the leaders in that church. And a lot of it is just they're going through 8 lessons usually. They do it like one a month. And they do some speaking. But, if you're a Sunday school teacher or a life group, whatever you want to call it, you need this kind of background. And I think we have too many people. Maybe we have a lot of people who don't have that background who would really benefit from having it. I'll just put it that way, that it would make them a stronger leader, a stronger teacher. And by that, you're making other people strong too. So that's what the whole process is. Jason Lowe, I talked to him. He's our regional consultant leader. And Jason actually wrote the preaching handbook, and he used that back in 2022, I think it was. And they went to 30 different places throughout the state. They went to all the regions of the state. And, at that time, they were more concerned with trying to get more people out of the pews to actually preach and fill some pulpits, because we have a lot of open pulpits, really, just to be honest, in Kentucky. And we need that, too. And not that these men can't do that, but they can also benefit just from the study, just from learning how to be a disciple of Christ. And it's been a great thing. But Jason said they have talked to all the consultants who, talking to the churches in their group to maybe try to do this and get, most of them are having 4 and 5 people, from the church. But think about that, 4 or 5 people who before maybe weren't ready to teach an in-depth Sunday school class or or go on a visit for that matter. But now they feel equipped to do that. And that's exactly what this is all about. And I hope that continues. And I'm sure it will. I know it will, because those guys they're talking to the pastors all the time. The consultants are in from the ground floor with it. Here's what we do. We'll get you the books. We'll come and help if we need to. Our consultants are great too, as you know, Lawrence. I mean,
They are.
They're fantastic. And I think this is a good exercise for them. And, and a good exercise for the church, the pastors. I talked to Jerry, I think it's Jerry Smith at Salem Baptist. He's a bivocational guy. He's a busy guy, yet he took the time out to train these men. And what he's finding is plenty of fruit from that effort.
Well,
So,
at any one time, there are some 300 churches throughout the state that need a pastor or preacher
Yeah.
to fill the pulpit on any given Sunday. So this is a great way to help meet that need, but also help strengthen the men in the church.
Absolutely. It's a great idea. And, I know it's going to continue to do well.
All right. I want to turn to a subject that is very important to the people in the state of Kentucky, and that is basketball. As we record this on Wednesday, the portal closed today, I think at midnight. I think is when the portal closed. And I want to talk about how Kentucky did and how U of L did. And to do that, I want to bring in our resident sports guru, Keith Taylor, who covers UK extensively. Keith, welcome. Give us a sense of how Kentucky did or did not do this year in the portal.
I think Kentucky missed out on a couple of guys. The latest one was Donnie Freeman. St. John, ironically, Rick Pitino got him from Syracuse. And I think they missed out on some guys, but they got a couple that they needed. They got a couple of point guards. And they have another guy coming in this weekend from George Rogers Clark. And I actually got to see him play as a sophomore. His name is Javon Morton. He played at Washington State, so he'll be in this weekend. I think Kentucky missed out on some guys, but you never know. The portal is kind of hard to gauge at this point. It's a whole new avenue in recruiting. And before you had high school recruiting, now you got high school recruiting, you got the portal. and you got to retain the players that you have that you want. So there's a 3-step process, all in one container that coaches now have to deal with. But I think Kentucky did okay. They got Zoom, and I think Malachi Marino is a test in the NBA. So I think Malachi will be back next season. I think he's going to go to prepare, see how good he is as far as the draft goes, and then I think he'll be back. But I think Kentucky, they've got to find a couple more guys. They didn't fail in the portal, but I think they had some disappointments.
Let's talk about that, Keith, because give me the perspective you think of UK fans, because UK fans are very demanding, and it does not appear that the UK hit any home runs in the portal this year.
Yeah, you're correct. I think the fans get very impatient coming off a 22-14 season. I think they just get. I think the portal kind of reminds me of recruiting overall, because you really have to look at the players you're trying to get and figure out how they would fit into your system. So I think that's the thing that coaches have to do in addition to high school recruiting. But you're right, fans are very, very impatient. And my philosophy is to wait and see what happens and figure out what we can do. Because you never know, you might have a kid like the kid from Furman. I mean, he's a point guard. You never know what he'll do. I mean, you got Zoom, and the kid from Foreman, he can light it up from three. And I think overall, I think the Blue Bloods now are kind of struggling in this avenue because it's more about money than the name on the jersey. And I think you're starting to see that more and more and more.
You're right, and I hate that. I hate the fact that we're paying players like this. NIL, I'm all for. Let them market themselves and get as much as they want from sponsors, but I just have trouble with direct payments now from universities and colleges, and this whole portal thing I think needs to be tweaked as well. But I think UK fans could be especially nervous considering that down the road, U of L did quite well in the portal. 2 big signings early on, and then another Spanish name I will not try to pronounce that was signed over the past couple of days, but he was a big hero for Iowa in the NCAA tournament, Mark. So it looks like U of L did pretty well.
They did, and you know what? What U of L is doing is they're ponying up, as Mark Stoops like to say. They are putting the money out there. And I guarantee you that the Kansas guy, I wouldn't even try to pronounce his name either. I think the PA guy ought to get paid a lot at Louisville this year just to have to try to pronounce some of these names. He should get double pay this year, whatever that is.
Jackson Jackson Shellstand, and Carter Knox from Arkansas, and then the Spanish player that was from Iowa this year, whose name I will not pronounce.
Yeah, and that guy, the guy from Iowa, he pretty much beat Florida with a great performance in the NCAA tournament. So we know he can play. And, they have spared no expense, honestly. And I know they say UK, Keith, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they say UK probably has as much portal money as anybody, which brings the question, how far do you go? I think, and these agents are wanting to get these colleges in bidding wars, of course, because they're going to make more money too if they do that. And I think that's what happened with Donnie Freeman. And Keith, you struck on it. It's not about the name on the front anymore. It's Kentucky. So what? What are you going to pay me? That's especially the really higher profile guys. We think Tyrone Stokes he's the number 1 player in America as a incoming freshman. And if you've watched him play, he's really good. He's really, really good. He's going to be one of those impact freshmen. I don't know if he's as good as Boozer as far as that goes, but he's a player for sure. Kentucky, Kansas, and Oregon, of all people, are in the running for him. And Lawrence, believe this or not, but it might come down to the tennis shoes you're wearing, because he already has a contract with Nike. Kentucky is a Nike school. Kansas is an Adidas school. He loves Nikes. So, and Oregon has their number one fan is the president of Nike. So all that factors in now, and it never.
I think
did
my
before.
head hurts thinking about all this.
But Louisville's done a good job, and are they going to get all these guys and say, okay, Pat Kelsey, here's a team you better win?
Well, as we learned from UK last year, they spent a lot of money reportedly on that team, but it never really gelled. So it's just more than getting talent. You got to have guys that will fit and be good in the locker room.
Yeah, and and you see, I do see like Duke do that. I do see, other schools do that. Kentucky didn't do that very well last year for whatever reason. I don't know. They had injuries too. I mean, we can make excuses all day, I guess. But Kentucky fans don't want excuses. They want another banner.
That's right.
And it's anything short of that is a failure. To them. I feel sorry for Coach Pope because he is getting just blasted on social media just daily. And he doesn't deserve that, really. But that's that's part of what you get when you come to Kentucky. And I think Louisville is very similar, to be honest. They have great expectations too.
That's where you get the big paycheck.
That's right. And what's sad? Some of these guys are going to be making more than their coach. And when you start thinking about that, wow, are you kidding me? I can see it in the NBA. It's a little different animal there, but we're already seeing it in college. And, Lawrence and Keith, how it goes. It trickles down. I mean, we're seeing high school get just ridiculous now with the recruiting that everybody's doing, trying to get this kid to come to this town, this kid to come to this town. It all trickles down and it's going to hurt basketball. I don't care. It's the portal it's just such a bad thing. And I don't know how you fix it, really. I don't have the answer. If I did, I'd be a millionaire. I could take that retirement money then, Lawrence.
And someone would try to steal you in the portal, so
Yeah, exactly. There's no journalist portal last time
that's
I looked.
true.
So,
why not? There needs to be a journalist portal.
Exactly.
Yeah, we need one of those. Yeah,
we need a portal. But anyway, it has been made for an interesting off season. It's made for a busy one for our sports editor here. He's having to keep up and send stories at midnight and whatever happened, because things always happen after dark. I mean, that's kind of the way it's been.
Yeah.
But it's been a good. It's been fun from that perspective, but it's probably no fun if you're one of these coaches trying to get these guys. And they thought they had the Freeman kid. They really did. And they let the other kid go to Florida State that they were looking at, and because I think time ran out, basically. Yeah. So anyway, so it's going to be fun to watch, see how it measures up at the end.
Well, Keith, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it and appreciate the work you do covering UK. I want to end by patting ourselves on the back. Last week, several of us went to the Baptist Communicators Association meeting in Mobile. We entered several categories, and the Kentucky Baptist Convention communication staff came away with 17 awards, including Best Electronic Publication for KentuckyToday.com. So, Mark, congratulations on that and your role in making that happen. And also, we won for the top large website for the KBC website. So, and there were many others, 15 others, from every category of communications, including our producer here, Frank, won several. He went to the podium several times to win video awards. So congratulations to our team. I'm just so honored to be able to work with a group of real professionals who love what they do and love doing it for the Lord. So thank you. And folks, we thank you for what you do, for watching and reading Kentucky Today. We invite you to do that. Go to KentuckyToday.com. where you can hear, you can read, and through our podcast, you can also watch. We're also available, of course, on all of the usual platforms for podcasts. And for more information on the Kentucky Baptist Convention and the cooperative program that makes all this possible, you can go to our award-winning website. Until next time, Lord willing, we'll see you on the Kentucky Today podcast.